Elden Ring Nightreign's DLC is set to release sometime at the end of this year, specifically in Q4, which we are in. So I'm going to go ahead and predict like a late November, early December release. The DLC though is going to be a make it or break it moment, I believe, for Nightreign. Even though we recently got the Deep of Night, there are a lot of people who are now becoming bored of the game and believe that the game has become stale. In today's video, we're going to talk about some things that they could add to DLC that I believe will bring some longevity to the game. There are 4 Shifting Earth events currently in Nightreign, ranging from the mountaintop to the Shrouded City to the Rotted Woods and of course the Crater. Now for the most part, one of those, the mountaintop, is not really the best Shifting Earth unless you're going against Caligo, which means that the Shifting Earth is just way too niche. The other ones are all pretty decent, but I think that we can go ahead and add some brand new Shifting Earths. We've already broken the barrier of using old Souls bosses from Dark Souls 1, 2, and 3, so I don't see any problem with them going back into the previous games and adding some new Shifting Earths. A prime example of this is using the one and only Anor Londo. It's probably one of the most beautiful places and a place that people remember throughout any of the Souls games. One of the most popular places for sure. They can use Anor Londo, maybe give it a different name if they don't want to use the exact same name, and have the Silver Knights guarded just like you would in Dark Souls 3 or in Dark Souls 1. They can go ahead and use Drenlaic Castle or Lothric Castle. Heck, do the famous, if it's a FromSoft game, it's got a Poison Swamp. But I'm going to particularly focus on Anor Londo. They can go ahead and add a miniature version of Anor Londo. Put some Silver Knights, maybe inside the actual cathedral, they could put some Black Knights, even though they're really the same. But, you know, everybody kind of differentiates them. And then, of course, you can go ahead and put a boss in there. And it doesn't even have to necessarily be from Dark Souls 1. You can go ahead and use Dark Souls 1 Anor Londo, and then put, like, Pontiff Sullivan in there from Dark Souls 3. And then, of course, obviously, you can go ahead and put a particular reward in there. I think if they go and use some places from the old games that people love and are familiar with, I think that will definitely bring back some of the player base. On the topic of changes to the map, we might as well talk about the map itself. Limveld is obviously an alternative version of Limgrave, and I think this would be a nice opportunity for FromSoft to either make some major changes to Limveld itself, or as some people might suggest, even go as far as bringing in new maps to Nightreign. This can include taking areas from Elden Ring and turning them into their own Nightreign map. This can include the Mountaintop of the Giants. This can be Caelid. This could be the capital, the royal capital. You can even go back again to the other games, and you can have different areas such as Drenlaic Castle, Anor Londo, the Irithyll of the Boreal Valley. You can go and add some of the most beloved places into this game as other maps. Now, I know adding all of them will take time, and I'm not saying that everything on this list, I hope they 100% do, or the DLC's a bust. These are all just suggestions that I think that could be work, because I think for the most part, people are starting to get burned out by Limveld. I think for the most part, everybody knows where everything is at. Regardless if you're playing in the Deep of Night and you don't have the stuff on the map, people know where everything is. So I think this will be a good time to go ahead and mix up even placements of the structures, or maybe change up the structures. Maybe instead of having an opening over here on the left, they put the opening over here on the right. And maybe instead of the building being broken over here, the building's broken down here. Just things like that to make the map feel more refreshed. This is the section I'm probably going to take the most time on, because I think it's possibly one of the most crucial elements that I think Nightreign really needs to focus on. And of course, we're going to be talking about field bosses and random events. I feel like the random events in Nightreign is severely lacking. You only really get one person who invades you, which is Morgott. Now, I know you can be invaded by Sentient Pests and Augur, but to be the most part, they're not really all that challenging. Sentient Pests is just find out where he is, beat him up, he barely does anything back. Augur spams the same like 2 moves, and unless you're somebody that is either Revenant or Duchess or Recluse, the skill you get or the reward you get for him is not really that good. I think that, again, we need to go back to the Dark Souls series and start putting them into these field bosses. I think that we shouldn't really be seeing any repeated bosses. For instance, the Crucible Knight can be in the castle, can be in the jail, and can also be the day 2 boss. Like, you have the Ancient Dragon that can also be in the jail and can be a day 2 boss. You have the Demi-Human Queen, who is a minor field boss and a day 1 boss. I think for the DLC, we really need to go ahead and diversify the field bosses, and we need to go ahead and up the ante on some of these randomness events. For instance, Morgott goes and invades you. The perfect person that can also match this is none other than the Pursuer from Dark Souls 2. That man invades you multiple times throughout Dark Souls 2 and will easily and just nonchalantly fit in to this invasion method of having the Pursuer. Not only that, again, I want it so that way if a boss is a field boss, I don't really want to see them either as a night boss or as a boss in the jail. The fact that you can get, again, the Godskin Duo, the Tree Sentinel, the Draconic Tree Sentinel. We have so much of an arsenal and so much of a variety of different enemies and bosses throughout the entire series that this could really spice things up and really drive home the nostalgia and the feeling of playing some of these older bosses on a brand new engine and a brand new game. For instance, in Dark Souls 1, I mean, you pick 2 bosses that most people are not really interested in, which is the Centipede Demon and the Gaping Dragon. Not only that, even for Dark Souls 2, I mean, the Smolter Demon he's like okay, and then you have Freja, which is not really that exciting. Out of all the bosses that you pick, only maybe the Nameless King is like, okay, yes, like, here we go, rematch time, and I could probably give it to the Dancer of the Boreal Valley. But I think that we really need to get to a point where field bosses are not in other areas. We shouldn't be seeing repeated bosses in different areas because of the variety of bosses that we have throughout the entire Souls. And I would like more random event, whether that's invasions, whether that is, you know, the meteor, the mausoleum, maybe have a castle just randomly spawn, or just things like that. I think the fact that there's sometimes where I forget that Morgott can even invade you, and I don't think that we should limit some of these events to certain bosses. For instance, like, obviously for the Frenzy Flame Tower, you can only get it with Libra. Okay, well, like, that's not fun. I believe that all of these randomness events should be able to spawn no matter which Night Lord you're fighting, and it should be open. I want to be able to go into a game not knowing exactly what's going to happen. I shouldn't be able to go into a Nightreign game and be like, okay, we're facing Libra, so we have a possibility to get the Frenzy Flame Tower, and that's really about it. I want it to be completely random, and I also want to be able to go and be like, okay, I see over there, okay, that's Loretta, all right, that's the Tree Sentinel, you know, there's the Ancestral Spirit. Really go and mix it up. And then finally, again, for the field bosses and the randomness, just please mix them up. I really don't want to see the same boss in 3 different locations being recycled like that. At the bare minimum, I expect to see at least 2 new Night Lords, and I hope we also get an Everdark Hollister. I have been looking forward to that for a while. I really hope they don't leave him in the dust, they leave him like it is, and I truly do hope that we get 2 new Night Lords. I'm hoping to get 3, and I wouldn't even mind if one of those was a rework of some of the old bosses, more specifically the final bosses. Like, imagine a revamped and a redesigned Gwen, but keeping some of his true character in, or maybe a Soul of Cinder, or maybe a Radagon, or a Promised Consort Radahn. Like I said, the barrier for this game has already been broken by bringing in non-Elden Ring characters. So I would hope at the least we get 2 new Night Lords, an Everdark Hollister, and as for a bonus, I would love to get a third one, and specifically would love to see an old final boss redesigned and remastered. The last topic I want to touch on is getting some new Nightfarers. Now, supposedly, we are guaranteed to get 2 new Nightfarers, which is absolutely exciting to see. I actually was kind of thinking that hopefully we get some sort of perfumer Nightfarer, because first of all, the talisman, I don't think anybody ever picks up the perfume talisman, and I think it would just fit nicely into the kits of everybody else, because it's not like we have any type of Nightfarer that does anything with perfumes, and I'm very curious of exactly what the last one's gonna be. I'm really hoping that this game becomes not a live service, but I really hope that they go ahead and really continue to update this game and keep this game alive. I also would like to see weapons from previous games. Again, a lot of this video is about bringing in all different types of enemies, bosses, weapons, and different magics and assets into this game. The fact that you have an entire catalog of things, we should not limit ourselves to particularly just Elden Ring. Now, I also heard that they're also going to be implementing some Shadow of the Erdtree stuff, which is good. But as far for some of these new Nightfarers, I would love to see some old weapons as starting weapons, and it would be even cool if, as a Nightfarer, you can choose your starting weapon. Maybe they give you an option of 3 different. Instead of just having Wilder's Greatsword, maybe you can go ahead and use the Bastard Sword. Or you can go ahead and use the Claymore from the other games. That would be very cool, but at the very least, from what I have seen, we are guaranteed to get 2 new Nightfarers. Those are just some of the things that I would love to see come to the DLC. And again, I'm not saying that everything on this list needs to be in there or the DLC is a bust, but I would definitely like to see a lot of these things implemented into the game. Let me know down below what you guys think should be added, or if you guys disagree or agree with my list. If you guys also can go ahead and click that like button, subscribe to the channel, and as always, don't you dare go hollow.